My wife's eldest cousin is married to a rich man from the Middle East. She is almost 40 and they have no children. The eldest cousin came to the door and said that she was infertile and hoped that her wife could help her have a child. I refused directly without thinking and told my wife that if she dared to agree, I would divorce her. A year later, my eldest cousin suddenly invited me and her child to have a full moon drink. But my eldest cousin cannot have children at all. Could it be that my wife agreed to that Middle Eastern tycoon behind my back? During the spring festival this year, my wife's eldest cousin Zhang Yakin brought her husband back from abroad for the first time in more than 10 years. My wife's parents died early, and her aunt took great care of her, so she and her eldest cousin could be said to have grown up together and had a very good relationship. So when I heard that my eldest cousin was back, my wife couldn't wait to drag me to visit her the next day. The eldest cousin said that no one had lived in the house for a long time and she didn't have time to clean up, so she made an appointment at a high-end hotel. As soon as we entered the box door, a middle-aged man with a height of 1.8 meters and a big beard stretched out his hand and greeted us in fluent Chinese. "Hello, I am Zhang Yakin's husband, just call me Omar. He's Saudi." I only knew that my cousin was married to a rich and powerful foreigner, but I didn't expect that she would be a rich man from the Middle East wearing a white headscarf. "Hello, Omar, I will stay a few days longer this time," I said. "Absolutely." Omar was talking to me, but his eyes were always on his wife, with no hidden aggression in his eyes. Just because my wife is beautiful and has a hot figure, she is the center of attention from men wherever she goes. I frowned slightly, a little dissatisfied. Although they were all relatives, this was too rude. "My name is Zhang Ming. I work in a private company. Overtime is the norm. I earn a salary of several thousand yuan a month. I have no background and no demolition. I can only work hard and rely on my savings over the years to get a loan to buy this property. Little house. I met my wife Lin Tianyu through someone else's introduction. My daily life is not rich, but it is ordinary and very happy. This year, I have some savings and plan to have a child, and I am currently preparing for pregnancy. Sit down, waiter, serve the food." Omar pulled us to sit down and took out the gifts he brought back from abroad. "Wow, is this for me?" Lin Tianyu's eyes were full of joy, and she was extremely excited while holding a super low-cut white evening dress. Cousin Zhang Yakin smiled and said, "Of course, Omar specially hired a royal designer to design this, and it took him 2 months to design it. Every stitch and thread on it is hand-sewn, and it is completely handmade." Lin Tianyu hugged Omar's arm excitedly. "Thank you so much, cousin-in-law, you are so kind." Seeing this scene, I was somewhat disgusted. What man could bear his wife being so close to another man? But thinking that when we got married, even the wedding dress was rented, so seeing my wife so happy, I could only suppress my unhappiness. At the dinner table, my wife kept whispering something to her cousin. I wanted to listen, but Omar dragged me away to drink. After a few glasses of white wine, I, who was not a good drinker, suddenly felt a little drunk, so I ran into the restroom under the pretext of going to the restroom. I washed my face with cold water and was just about to go out when I heard the voices of my wife and cousin. "Xiaoyu, think about it carefully, even if my cousin begs you. Your brother-in-law is so happy, it is a shame not to have children. Besides, Omar is so rich, someone will inherit it in the future. If I can't give him an heir, he will definitely sooner or later you will divorce me. You should think about it for the rest of your life." "Cousin, I will think about it carefully." I walked out just in time, smiled and asked, "What did you say?" My wife's face immediately turned red, and she looked at me with a dodgy look. She pushed me and said angrily, "Go away, you are a grown man, what does our daughter's private conversation have to do with you?" I know my wife too well, she is obviously feeling guilty. I instinctively felt that there was something fishy in this matter. My wife's eldest cousin hasn't come back for so many years, so when she comes back suddenly this time, there must be something ulterior. "Honey, hubby, do you think I'm beautiful?" My wife put on that white evening dress and twirled in front of me. The dress was cut just right, perfectly showing off my wife's big breasts and fat buttocks. I was so excited to see her. His eyes lit up. No wonder my wife is so excited, this dress does look quite high-end. My wife's eldest cousin hasn't been back for many years, and when she comes back, she sells such valuable things. Who would believe her if she doesn't have any plans? You know, before, my wife had been talking about going to see her cousin, but she always resisted. Her words were full of impatience, and her words were full of disdain for the poor relatives, as if she would not have contact with her in the future. Now he has suddenly changed his temper and is showing great courtesy. What is the reason for this? But what can we, an ordinary family, have to worry about? After thinking about it, I still think I should remind my wife and give her a vaccination. Wife, your cousin came back this time to invite us to dinner and give gifts. Is there something we can help you with? The wife was happily looking in the mirror. After hearing this, she subconsciously denied, "You are overthinking, cousin and cousin. My brother-in-law is so rich, what can we do to help him? Am I really thinking too much?" At this time, my wife came over hesitantly, hugged me, buried her head in the crook of my neck, and said softly, "Husband, my cousin really wants to discuss something with us." I smiled lightly. This is in line with human nature. I said I was all ears, and my wife followed suit. There are rich people in the Middle East. Although my cousin-in-law is rich, there are sometimes problems that money cannot solve, such as having children. He and his cousin have been worried about the problem of not having children. When Yen, I also sighed, this matter is quite disturbing. The wife continued, "My cousin is almost 40. She has been married for more than 10 years and has no children. I went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said that my cousin had an abortion when she was young and damaged her uterus. Plus, as she gets older, it is basically impossible. She has a child, so my cousin wants me to do a little favor." Hearing this, I was a little confused. Even the doctors can't solve this. What can we do? Whether direct or collateral, there is no doctor within 3 generations of our family. Oops, just listen to me first. The wife gave a coquettish cry, her face turned slightly red, she glanced with bright eyes, and then said hesitantly, "My cousin wants me to help her give birth to a child. You also know that my parents passed away early. Thanks to my aunt for taking care of me when I was a child, I don't want my cousin to be alone for the rest of her life." I suddenly realized, and after thinking about it, I reluctantly stretched out my hand. He put his arms around his wife's shoulders and said, "So that's what happened. It's not impossible. If I can't do it, we can help her give birth to a child and adopt it to them. Their family is in good condition, so we are not treating the child badly. But it must be you have to be good to my child and don't bully him." The wife looked a little embarrassed and bit her lip and remained silent for a long time. Seeing this, I wondered, why, don't you agree? Yes, after all, it is the flesh that fell from your body. If that doesn't work, just refuse it. To be honest, I can't bear it. My wife interrupted, "What my cousin means is the child must be Omar's, which is an explanation to others, so she begged me to stay with Omar for a few days." It took me several turns to figure out what this meant. Bang. I slapped my hand on the table, impossible. What a bad idea. I said why Omar looked at my wife wrong, and my cousin has been avoiding me, and after a long time, he came up with ideas for my wife. There is absolutely no way I can agree to this. My wife hugged me from behind and said with a cry, "Husband, if there is no child, Omar can always find a young and beautiful woman to kick my cousin away. What will happen to my cousin by herself then? What should I do?" Seeing that she seemed to be really interested in helping, I couldn't help it any longer. I stood up and told her very seriously, "That's the end of this matter. Then let's get divorced." My wife stiffened when she heard this, then rolled her eyes at me and said, "I'll discuss it with you, and if you don't agree, I'll say no to my cousin tomorrow." After saying that, my wife came up and kissed me. Seeing my wife's clear attitude, I breathed a sigh of relief and apologized softly. I thought this matter would be over here, but what happened next made me realize that I was too naive. After a dizzying few days of work, I finally made it to the weekend. I originally planned to spend time with my wife, but she refused me on the grounds of spending more time with my cousin. "Husband, my cousin asked me to go shopping tonight. I won't come back for dinner. You can handle it yourself." "Yeah." "Husband, my cousin asked me to eat delicious food with him. You can eat it yourself." "Husband, it's rare for my cousin to come back. I spend more time with him recently. My cousin and his wife are living in a villa in China almost every day. In the past, I didn't come back until 8 or 9 in the evening. I can only invite a few friends to play ball." A few people drank some wine in the afternoon, and a friend jokingly said, "Your wife won't hang out with that Middle Eastern foreigner anymore, right? It is said that Middle Eastern foreigners are also in great health, rich and capable. What woman can resist?" I heard my heart murmuring. The party ended just like that, and I got up and went home.